As Vietnam emerged as one of the world's leading manufacturing hubs, attracting multinational corporations like Samsung, LG, and Intel, the country's export industry experienced significant growth. Whenever foreign investors establish factories in Vietnam, their primary goal is either to produce and sell their products within the country, or to utilize Vietnam's resources, labor, land, and more to manufacture products for overseas markets. Many companies have opted for the latter. Samsung, for example, has gradually transformed Vietnam into its primary smartphone manufacturing hub, exporting these phones globally from Vietnam. This has had a profound impact on the country's export statistics. Consequently, Vietnam's export industry boasts an impressive value of $371 billion, contributing to a total trade size exceeding $750 billion. This figure places Vietnam among the top 20 largest global traders, surpassing even the size of its domestic economy. In 2022, Vietnam's gross domestic product was nearly $400 billion. However, the significance of Vietnam's international trade is often underestimated. Many, including the Vietnamese themselves and people worldwide, might not fully appreciate its pivotal role in the country's economy. To truly appreciate the gravity of Vietnam's export sector, it's essential to analyze the nature of goods it exports and the benefits these bring to the nation. Vietnam exports a broad range of goods, with its product portfolio being quite diverse. The most substantial sector is technology and electronics, which includes products like smartphones, computers, and related components. Another significant category is machinery, followed by textiles. Vietnam is also a major global exporter of agricultural products such as tea, coffee, rice, vegetables, fruits, and seafood, with seafood exports alone accounting for a significant $10.1 billion. Understanding the export industry is fundamental. Essentially, exports occur whenever goods are shipped overseas. These can be a wide variety of items, such as electronics, clothing, food, and more. Any tangible item that is transported via cargo ship, plane, or truck and sold in a foreign country qualifies as an export. In return, the exporting country receives foreign currency, usually in US dollars. This exchange is one of the primary advantages of the export industry, but we will delve deeper into its benefits later. For now, let's examine Vietnam's largest export components. According to data from the General Statistics Office of Vietnam, in the first 11 months of 2022, computers, electronics, and phones constituted the most substantial portion of the country's exports, amounting to over $104 billion. Machinery exports followed, valued at around $42 billion, then textiles at $34 billion. Industrial product exports form a large segment of Vietnam's export industry. However, Vietnam is also a significant exporter of agricultural goods. In the same time frame, the country exported billions of dollars worth of tea, coffee, rice, vegetables, fruits, and even seafood. Seafood exports alone accounted for a staggering $10.1 billion. We must also examine the destinations of these exported products. The United States is the largest importer of goods from Vietnam, with the world's biggest economy sourcing over $101 billion worth of goods from the Southeast Asian nation. This highlights the critical role of the United States as a bilateral partner for Vietnam. No other country imports as much from Vietnam. Even China, its large Asian neighbor, imported only $52 billion within the same period. South Korea, a significant investor in Vietnam, imported just about $22 billion. Meanwhile, ASEAN, the Southeast Asian Economic Union, collectively imported about $31.1 billion from Vietnam. Vietnam's global exports are mainly fueled by the country's robust industrial and manufacturing sectors. If not for companies like Samsung, Vietnam's exports might not be as impressive. According to the CEO of Samsung Vietnam, the company's export value hit an astounding $65.5 billion, out of a total revenue of $74.2 billion. This substantial figure underscores the significant role Samsung Vietnam plays in the nation's economy. Having an understanding of the magnitude of Vietnam's international trade and its key players is one aspect of our discussion. The other is the importance of international trade overall. International trade holds significant value for any nation, and Vietnam is no exception. Firstly, it provides Vietnam with access to new markets and resources. In the past, prior to its engagement with Western nations, Vietnam had limited access to competitive goods, including electronics. However, since implementing market reforms and following the lifting of the United States' trade embargo, Vietnam has seen an influx of new products entering the country. This has led to an enhanced flow of goods within the country, allowing its residents access to improved technologies, minerals, and even food. Secondly, numerous economists assert that international trade promotes economic growth and boosts competitiveness. There's a recognized correlation between international trade and increased investment, job creation, and overall economic activity in a country. Concurrently, international trade also contributes to enhancing competitiveness, as domestic firms are exposed to foreign companies, thus fostering efficiency, innovation, and productivity. Thirdly, international trade fosters diplomatic relations with geopolitical stability. For Vietnam, engaging in trade agreements and partnerships with other nations creates diplomatic goodwill and strengthens its position in the global community. These diplomatic ties are crucial for various reasons, including conflict resolution, collective security, and addressing global challenges such as climate change and public health crises. International trade agreements often come with clauses and frameworks that require member nations to abide by certain rules, such as human rights standards and environmental protections. By adhering to these standards, Vietnam not only improves its international reputation, but also commits to better governance and social responsibility at home. Nevertheless, while these benefits have significantly contributed to Vietnam's growth and development, there's one more crucial advantage that international trade has brought to the country: the influx of foreign currencies. Foreign currencies hold considerable significance for Vietnam. When Vietnam sells products to a country such as the United States, payment is made in US dollars. This foreign currency can then be used by Vietnam to purchase goods from overseas. A common example seen in developing countries is the purchase of machinery and equipment. According to the same data set from the General Statistics Office that we've referred to throughout, Vietnam imported machinery and equipment worth about $41 billion. This indicates that while Vietnam exports finished products worldwide, it imports machinery and equipment to expand its domestic manufacturing capabilities, thus sustaining its cycle of exporting goods and building more factories. Vietnam can also utilize the foreign currencies to import essential goods. For instance, the country has imported pharmaceutical products worth about $3 billion and motor vehicles valued at $3.4 billion. The influx of foreign currencies facilitates these transactions. Furthermore, international trade contributes significantly to Vietnam's foreign reserves. As of this writing, Vietnam holds about $83 billion in foreign reserves, a substantial portion of which can be attributed to the country's trade surplus. Vietnam exports more than it imports, leading to a net gain in foreign currencies. In 2022, the country recorded a trade surplus of $12.4 billion, which plays a pivotal role in Vietnam's overall economy. A key aspect of understanding Vietnam's current economic landscape lies in examining the pivotal historical developments that brought it to this point. The Doi Moi reform era certainly laid the foundation for economic progress, but it was Vietnam's ascension to the World Trade Organization in January 2007 that truly facilitated transformative change. Joining the WTO required Vietnam to commit to a range of significant trade liberalization measures. These commitments included slashing tariffs, doing away with non-tariff barriers, liberalizing service markets, and implementing WTO agreements on topics such as intellectual property rights and trade-related investment measures. The effects of this ascension to the WTO on Vietnam were immediate and far-reaching. It catalyzed an upswing in trade and brought about an increase in foreign direct investment. It also diversified the country's export markets, Before joining the WTO, Vietnam's trade was concentrated with a limited number of partners. WTO membership broadened Vietnam's trade partners, reducing its reliance on any single market. Today, the country's largest trading partners include the US, EU, China, and ASEAN. Crucially, WTO Ascension also necessitated an overhaul of Vietnam's legal and regulatory framework to ensure compliance with WTO regulations. This overhaul led to substantial improvements in the business environment within the country, making it a more attractive destination for foreign investors and traders. This transformational period in Vietnam's history has undoubtedly contributed to its current status as a significant player in the global economy. Now, before we end the video, we still need to talk about one important thing: the challenges. One big challenge is economic downturns. When, for instance, the United States faces a recession, it could reduce demand for Vietnamese exports, impacting its GDP and job market. The country is also susceptible to trade tensions between larger powers such as the US and China. While Vietnam might benefit short-term by becoming an alternative manufacturing base, there is no assurance this would be sustainable in the face of ongoing geopolitical strife. Moreover, Vietnam's export industry is significantly concentrated in sectors like electronics and machinery, making it vulnerable to global market fluctuations in these areas. Disruptions in global supply chains due to factors like natural disasters or geopolitical conflicts can also adversely affect both its import of raw materials and export of finished products. But anyway, Vietnam has slowly become a global superstar in both the entire manufacturing industry of the world and also as an international partner. Do let us know what you think. Thanks for watching.